When we think about the term going off the grid, we're usually talking about the fixed grid inside of your DAW that keeps everything synced up and on beat. But what happens when we remove that grid and start laying in sounds that don't follow a traditional timing? For ambient music, this can be helpful to break out of something that feels less about the rhythm and more about the contrast and overall flow of the track. This all sounds fine, but when you remove the grid, there are some technical considerations that you need to make before you go removing the grid on every single piece. First of all, when you remove the grid, you're actually increasing the possibility that things will start to overlap. So you need to take into account how the frequencies of each part of your song are interacting. It's important to keep an eye out for frequency separation and how you are carving out space for those frequencies to live so they don't overlap. We'll talk more about that in today's video. The second thing you might want to think about is a concept that we talk about on the channel often, which is sonic depth of field. Similar to photography or film, this is a process of deciding what elements of your track are placed in the foreground and what falls into the background. Using proper filtering techniques, EQ, and volume levels can be effective ways to build sonic depth of field. By doing this, you're providing your listener with a more immersive listening experience and allowing the filtering of the sounds themselves to become a compositional element that will help take your tracks to the next level. As always, before we start, make sure you smash that like button on the way in and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already with the bell notification on so you can keep up to date with all the latest in the Signs of Life universe. One more thing before we start. In today's video, you'll see me using several presets and wavetables that are available exclusively on my Patreon. If you're looking to go beyond the basics of music production and want access to high-quality tutorials just like this every single week, check out my Patreon in the link down below. There, you'll find 5 different tiers of access, which include hundreds of presets for various synthesizers, tons of extra tutorials that you won't find on this channel, exclusive live streams, and if you really want to take your music to the next level, I offer one-on-one ambient coaching. If you struggle with online learning and are looking for someone to inspire you and really help elevate your production process and workflow, check out the ambient coaching tier on my Patreon. You can find out more details about it in the link down below. And finally, if you're looking for a community of like-minded producers to talk about gear, music production, or get advice on your own music, check out our Discord community. We've got tons of great discussion going on over there, as well as a brand new community compilation where you have an opportunity to submit your music and be featured on our brand new community imprint label. These albums will be professionally mastered and listened to by Synphaera and Exosphere fans around the world. More details are available on our Discord server, and you can find the link to that down below as well. That being said, let's get into today's video and go off the grid. Enjoy. What's up guys, Chris here from Signs of Life. Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, we're gonna build an ambient track, and while we do that, we're gonna talk about this topic that was brought up on my Patreon recently, off the grid. What is going off the grid? Well, first of all, the grid is literally a fixed grid inside of your DAW that allows you to snap different audio clips and MIDI clips to a certain grid. And now this is very helpful for sequence stuff, for beat material, stuff that really has a strict timing. But when you turn that fixed grid off, that's what's going off the grid. Now, as ambient producers, this kind of helps, especially when you're trying to think about, okay, when do things start and when do things stop? Sometimes you want them to start and stop at certain points that doesn't have anything to do with timing, and that's when you go off the grid. All right, so we're gonna talk about what that means, how to effectively use that, and then how to build an ambient track without the grid. That's what we're gonna do here today. All right, so first of all, I'm gonna flip over to arrangement view here in Ableton. And as you can see, my fixed grid is set to 1 bar. This is my default. So it's 1 bar, and every bar you get another like fixed grid line. So then I'm just gonna make a MIDI clip with Control-Shift-M. And as you can see, everywhere that I move this, it snaps the grid, right? So if I right click again and I turn off the fixed grid, those lines are still gonna be there, but they become, dotted. So now it's like, I can move this literally anywhere and it's not gonna stop on the fixed grid. Now, this is really helpful, especially when you're building MIDI clips that maybe have different timings, or you're trying not to build something that's rhythmic based, you're trying to build something that has a sense of contrast and depth. And that's what is really powerful about doing stuff off the grid, especially as an ambient music producer. So let's do that. Let's kind of just set a tempo. I mean, it's respective of tempo, right? Because tempo is the overall way that the track is going to move forward. But if you think about it, you don't have to stop and start at, say, 16, 32, 64 bars. It doesn't matter. So we could just literally just draw something in here. And this is sort of my general overall approach, and then start laying in some sounds. So let's go ahead and lay in an instance of Vital, right? So let's go ahead and say, all right, here we got Vital. Good. We can just make a pad or something real quick by clicking on the wavetable. Let's load a wavetable from my Patreon pack or something. That one looks good. Okay, and we'll up the attack to about 4 seconds, lower the sustain down, up the release to about 5 seconds. Decay can be around 5 seconds as well. There we go. Cool. We can add sub oscillator here and lower that down an octave and make this a, I don't know, let's go basic shapes, and we'll make that a triangle wave. That's good. Add a filter. Okay. Let's add a filter envelope by up the attack to about 3 seconds. Take the sustain out of it. Give the decay about 4 seconds as well. And now we have a nice filter envelope. We can tie that to the filter, move that back a little bit. There we go. Let's pick our key. Let's choose D minor today. That sounds good. And we'll put this into the pad bus, and then we will add some delay and reverb, and off we go. Let's move the wavetable frame at a sync tempo of 4/1, and we're off and running. All right. So now that we don't have a grid, we could literally do this any way we want. So we could say, all right, no grid, cool. You could either paint the notes in here, and I say paint loosely, like, oh yeah, you're painting something in. You could just click the scale. Let's click D minor, what we chose, and we could just turn off the fixed grid again, and then draw mode, and now we could just kind of lay in chords. I mean, if I had a, you know, I'm on my push here, but I love that chord. That's a nice start, right? Up and down for the velocity. Start laying it in here. But it's really like, it's not about the timing anymore, because now I can say, all right, well, if I want this to change, maybe to something like, I don't know. That's a nice contrast, right? This could come out all the way. Let's just bring this, and then this could kind of fade into this second contrast here, and really give us a sense like things are moving, but then they're gonna hit at different times. So that's kind of important. It's like thinking to yourself, all right, how am I building these sounds up, and how are the frequencies going to interact with each other? And then once you do that, then you can start layering the sounds on top of each other, you know, deeper sounds, more brighter sounds, and you're playing with the frequency spectrum like you are with color. That's super important. So, oh, I love that. That's a nice contrast as well. That's a nice one. How am I choosing these chord shapes? You know, a lot of the times I'm just going by feel on my push, because I am in D minor mode and push, because I just set the key to D minor. Like, so I'm just sort of like kind of moving my hands around and providing different shapes for myself to create different chords. So if that interests you, cool. I would encourage you to either study chord construction if you're, you know, using a traditional keyboard, or on push, just put it in minor mode and see what you can come up with. Launchpads do this. You know, you get a Launchpad Pro if you're not using Ableton. But this is nice, all right? So now we have a MIDI clip here that's completely irrespective of the grid. It's still moving along at 74 beats per minute. We're still in D minor, but here we are, and we can just sort of like paint in some more notes here. Let's paint in a high F. If you do know music theory, it really helps here. And then maybe, I wouldn't put a B flat in there. Maybe like a C. This is sort of a haunting piece. I like this. And, you know, we just sort of quickly put that ambient pad together, but we can do a lot more here. We can do a lot more in terms of filtering and, right, give it some brightness. Let's pick another wavetable from, say, the Patreon pack, and we will give it a harmonic stretch. Some nice contrast here. We'll put that oscillator through filter 2, and we'll make this a notch spread. Okay, up the resonance a little bit. We'll put this in sample and hold mode and make it 1/8 and tie that to the filter position. And then we'll right click, make that bipolar. Right? So that's, again, more contrast, right? More contrast. I love that. So we can put this in sync and put this in 8/1. I wish they had different timings here. I wish we had 5/1 and 7/1. That'd be nice. Lower that. There we go. Let's put a compressor on this. Lower the mix down. I love that, like, kind of tweaky thing in the distance. Now this is synced, right? So that last, you can hear that sample and hold is synced. But that's okay. That's okay, right? Because we're off the grid now. So it's like, all right, if you lay something underneath that, it's going to provide a deeper sense of contrast. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's provide another clip here. Maybe we'll pull in Mirage. Good old Mirage, and we'll go slow. I love this library. And we'll say, all right, it's a pad I made in Mirage. Let's put it through the pad bus. Up some reverb, up some delay. Ooh, that's nice. What about a deeper one? Yeah? That's a nice floaty. Now this could be really long, right? So we could say, all right, cool. We've got our idea here. Let's turn off the fixed grid and let's lay this in. All right, this is a D, an A, a C, right? Should be what, a 7th chord? And then here's a sus4. Okay, it eventually moves into a sus4. I like that. So let's go ahead and go like this. See, this can be really helpful, especially with like drone music. Like if you're really into drone and stuff, like this kind of approach, like, all right, I'm just gonna have things fading into each other. And then, you know, that's how I can build this sense of, because now when we listen to them together, that's deep, right? Especially with the reverb tying in. I'm gonna lower the that sample and hold oscillator. And maybe lower the envelope amount. Yeah, filter. I can't emphasize that enough. Like, really filter your frequencies. All right, so we're off to a good start here. I like this. To extend the loop markers out, I'll say this, just hit 250 up here in the loop marker. It extends it out, but it gives you a long timeline to work with. So now we're looking at 10, 12, 13 minutes. I don't think we're gonna go that long, but at least you have, you know, the option there. I like that. Now, let's bring in a third element here. Now, this element can be sort of the exciter, right? This is like, oh, I didn't know I wanted that, right? Or I didn't know that was possible, kind of thing. Like, you're bringing out these details and you're merging things. Like you're sort of unveiling as it goes along. So it's like, oh, that's there. Oh, that shows up. Oh, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, details matter. And especially when you talk about contrast, ambient music is all about contrast. Whether you're panning things in space, I want you to think about this concept. Whether you're panning things in like 3-dimensional space, or you're providing different filtering on different elements, that's really what we're doing here. So Today we're specifically talking about beatless, drone, off the grid stuff. But, the same can be said for, rhythmic stuff, Sybian material, the Signs of Life stuff that I do, that's all relevant. So let's open up, let's see here. I haven't explored much of this, but he's got a couple textures in here I wanted to try out. Textured memories, that sounds perfect for where we're at right now. Put it in the synth bus, up some reverb, let's see what we got. Oh yeah. That's cool. All right, so let's go ahead and lay that in. Turn off the fixed grid. There we go. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a nice addition. I still think that needs to be filtered a little more. Still going back to that vital patch. And maybe the compressor. There we go. Perfect. That's good. Right? Now, what's lacking, I think, in this piece so far is I really don't want you to forget about this, especially when you talk about, ambient music, ambient production, that kind of thing, is the low end. Like, are you taking care of the low end? Because I hear a lot of producers out there who submit music either to me or I hear stuff on wherever, and I'm like, where's the lower frequencies? Because the lower frequencies is, I often say this on my videos, is that the lower frequencies is where our emotional response comes from the music. And that is super important because we can get caught up in the mid-range, right? And I can put a span. It's always important to put some sort of, at least I think it's important to put, either using your ears or you're using a meter. I prefer using something like a span so you can kind of see where you're at frequency-wise. And as you can see, we're doing a good job of not crowding the, say, 3 to 10K range. Like, you don't want that to be just chock full of information right now, especially not at the beginning stages. You really want to keep an eye on where your frequencies are, how they're evolving, and then how you're using those frequencies effectively, right? So, we do have some low end, but I would really like a foundational, mono bass to really set this and ground it. And I tried to do that with the vital pad, but I think because the bass note is changing there, it'd be nice to fill it in. So let's grab that Hive patch that I made the other day. Let's open this up. Presets, it was called Foundational Principle. This was on my Patreon. There. That. That's what I'm talking about. You hear that? It's very subtle. But what it did was so important. Right? Just that. That's really all you need, especially in different sections, right? So we're off the grid here. I love that. I love that. I don't like this color. Let's change it to pink so we can see what it is. Oh, see? If you're going off the grid, yeah. Let's go redo select clip color, and then we'll go right click, turn off the fixed grid. There we go. Lay in that bass note. A deep, deep D, right? That's good. And we'll change the attack here on that Hive patch. Yeah. Up the sustain. There we go. What we could do is actually tie this to 7/1. We'll move this. Yeah. That's so good. Yes. Nice. Right? So just that subtle bit of contrast. I was talking about this with one of my clients last night. We were doing ambient coaching. And I was like, the pros know that it is the subtlest of changes that make the biggest difference. Like the smallest of things can really separate the amateurs from the pros. All right, I'm just gonna be like, put it to you straight. Like that, it really does matter. The kind of things that you do to sort of enhance a track or enhance a sound, it comes down to the finer details when you really get into higher levels of it. And so, you know, just knowing how much to filter out a bass frequency, just knowing how much to filter out a pad, where to let high frequency in, how to provide deeper sense of contrast, that stuff matters. All right. I just wanted to sort of like blanket that with, you know, it's important. All right. And maybe that's a little too much. Maybe I went overboard with the hive. So I'll just kind of relax that a little bit. But I like that. I like how it opens up and sort of changes, you know. It's nice. Okay. It's a nice drone. It's a nice drone. Now that we've sort of said, okay, here we are at this point. Now, we're sort of, I see it as sort of a mid-ground. Like we could say, all right, we could extend this out. We could build another element here. My natural instinct would be like, okay, let's put another pad in there, but make this sort of like something really, really exciting. But follow along with the same, you know, line. So let's open up Phase Plant. And, you know, this is part of the beauty of digital synthesis. You can apply so many different contrasts. If you're working on one single synth, you're gonna be sort of boxed in. But when you're working with a computer, I mean, it's like, oh my God, you can have different synths and different types of synthesis all in one single track and then sort of blend them all together. It's my favorite part. I mean, I've been a synthesis addict for several years. It's been a long journey. All right, so anyway, let's go up in here and go to the user folder. I've got a lot of patches in here. A deep and unpredictable space pad from my Patreon. I like this one. Yes. That's what I was looking for. And this is why I spend a lot of time in the sound design phase. Because when I'm in the middle of it and when I'm like, you know, sort of like, you know, in the captain's chair, so to say, and you're like designing a track, like you just want to like pull from your own archives and say, all right, oh, well, that sounds good. That sounds great. And that's why I'm shameless plug here, but that's why the Patreon exists. That's why I put so much work into Patreon, so you guys can grab those presets and just say, all right, cool. Or grab tutorials like this and say, I need some inspiration, grab Science tutorial, watch it, get inspired, go off and do some work. All right. So that's what it's all about for me. So anyway, yes, that's good. Right. And that's a nice upper frequency. If we went back to the span, you can see like we're really starting to fill out this region right here. And that's what I wanted. I wanted some sort of, because from the Mirage pad to the Vital pad, you know, now we're like getting more into that higher realm, right? Again, chord choice here is your own. That's sort of like a deeper sus too. I don't know, like, right? Because that's a D, an A, and an E. It's a nice, but I'm spreading it across the keyboard here. So think about that. The farther you go across the keyboard, the more octave range you're going to be utilizing. So that's important, right? Let's go here. Make sure to keep touch with the velocity. Velocity sensitive patches are something that I do here at Signs of Life. And then, yeah, that's nice. And then you can do like a different, oh, that's interesting. I like that. Ooh, that's an interesting contrast, right? And then move this in. I like that. real drony stuff, right? But that's so cool. And then maybe that Mirage pad can come back. Okay. Oops. Or maybe we could extend this out. We could probably extend it if we wanted to. Instead of just making a new MIDI clip, just go over here, double click, and set the length. Just grab the length and make more room for that. See, now it's not going to repeat until 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So now we can just go in here and say, all right, cool. We did our thing here, and then maybe draw in some more notes, right? A D and a C, and maybe an F to support that, right? They call me the Bob Ross of ambient. Happy colors. It's like, but you know, this is the art of it. The art of it is putting the right sounds together, processing the right material. You know, everybody has a different approach to it, and I'm not one to say your approach is wrong or anything like that. Like, you have to find what works for you, and that's why I do a lot of different videos, is so you can sort of see and understand, you know, there are different approaches to things. You know, just because we're going off the grid in one sense doesn't mean that like not every track has to be like that. I do a lot of my stuff. I'd say 95% of my stuff is on the grid, no matter if it's ambient or not. Like, I still need that sort of sense of like, not rigidity, but like, because I do a lot of sequence material, so you know, it matters to me. I'm like, gotta stay on the grid, man. Anyway, this is good. I like this. I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring it home here, and I'm gonna like do like a bass run that sort of like kind of steps into this last home stretch. Some of these sections might be a little long here, and you can get away with that. That's okay. But we'll add more details. Like, you can start stacking them up as you go along. I think that's really important to remember, is that like, just because you've sort of laid something out doesn't mean you can't go back and adjust it. Sit back and listen, like really listen to what you're doing. And you'll find that sometimes the answers might emerge after a couple listens. Maybe you just like, inspiration hits, you can dive back in. But I think the most important thing is obviously paying attention, like, you know, what are you creating here? Like, how does it sound on the outgoing, right? That's really important. So if you can dial all that part of the process in, that's well over half of it, right? Also, having a good reverb helps. I am using Valhalla Room here and Valhalla Delay. So, you know, I turned someone on to Room last night, and they were like blown away. They're like, oh, that's the sound I'm looking for, right? It's just that good. It's like an incredible sounding reverb. So tell Sean Signs of Life sent you. Sean from Valhalla. I mean, seriously, like, it's just that good. It's so good. Anyway, all right. The heat's getting in my brain here. It's really hot in the studio. Okay. Anyway, so let's end this with a bass run, and we're gonna end it with a B flat C, or actually a B flat C D. We'll do that. There we go. And maybe this will be the run. Yeah. And again, theme of the show here is off the grid, so we're not watching that, but like, is it important enough for us? Oops, I didn't copy that. Alt drag. Sorry, control drag. There we go. Okay. Add some reverb to that. And maybe again, I'm gonna lower that. There we go. Yeah, like that. So that's nice. Exactly. That's perfect. All right, so now you can hear, like, now the bass notes are sort of like stepping towards the end, and now we can lay in like some of those final details. Like we can start bringing in some of the last little bits, like bring this back. That's nice. And then maybe bring in that last vital patch. There we go. So everything is sort of coming back in at the last second. Let's do one more. This is like the finale, and then come back in here and we'll grab, let's say, let's grab Hive. Let's grab Hive. Why not? Let's just grab another instance of Hive. Oh, there we go. There we go. See, things are coming back. They're returning. And another pack from my Patreon. I swear I didn't plan it out this way. I just grabbed stuff, like the latest stuff that I've been making, right? And then, ooh, that's interesting. Wow. Okay. That's a contrast, all right. Yes. So as you can hear, like, it's on. Like it is. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so let me just go ahead and, as I always say, paint in some last final touches here. All right. Again, we're focused more on the upper region here. If it was a Synphaera track, you might have some sequence, but again, we're going off the grid here. And really bringing it in, like, okay, we could go up another octave and maybe that would really set us off. Here we go, nice high G. And a D, there we go. Another low, there we go, perfect. Yes, this is good, this is good. I like this. I like this. This is what I'm talking about, right? So we built it up to that point. I mean, going back to the beginning here, you can see how we sort of built this track up from scratch, right? And you know, ambient tracks, I mean, this is like sort of the foundation of it all, but as far as going off the grid, I think you now have a better understanding of like, okay, this is how this stuff works. Like, it matters. And you don't have to be locked into any sort of conventional timing method. And that in itself can free you from somewhat of the limitations that that sort of timing gives you. Like, it's great for some things, but when you're really talking about like sonic depth of field and you really want to bring out the most of what your ambient track could be, sometimes removing all conditions is the best possible thing. Anyway, my name is Chris from Science of Life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate your support. And yeah, I love doing this kind of stuff. This is truly one of my great joys in life. I mean, to be able to bring this sort of information forward and show you guys how things are done. I mean, you guys got questions, I got answers. So if you want more exclusive content like this, be sure to check out my Patreon. You can join us for as little as $3 a month. There's tons of extra tutorials on there, just like this one. And yeah, I mean, if you guys have goals, I'm here to help you reach them. So thank you guys so much for all your support. I truly, truly appreciate it. And get out there and make some good ambient tracks. A lot of the presets that I showcased today are on my Patreon. So if you're interested in more material like that, check it out. Patreon.com/scienceoflife is where you go. And yeah, man, my bread and butter right here. Ambient track walkthroughs. So as always, you guys, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. My name is Chris from Science of Life, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take good care.